If there was one herb that modern research and traditional medicine both agree on for stress resilience, sleep quality, and recovery capacity, it would be ashwagandha. Whether you're feeling constantly stressed, struggling to fall asleep, or finding your workouts don't seem to pay off, this herb has been studied for exactly these challenges. In this video, we're going to take a deep dive into how ashwagandha actually works in the body, from balancing the HPA stress axis to influencing neurotransmitters, reducing oxidative stress, and supporting recovery. We'll break down what human trials show for anxiety, sleep, and physical performance, and who is most likely to benefit, so you'll know what works, what's realistic, and how to use it effectively. By the end, you'll understand how this herb can help you manage stress, sleep better, and recover faster, backed by research. Ashwagandha, botanically known as Withania somnifera, is also called Indian ginseng or Indian winter cherry. It is a member of the Solanaceae or nightshade family of plants and has been used in traditional Indian medicine for roughly 3,000 years. Historically, the plant's root has been used as a tonic to support the nervous system, enhance vitality, and rejuvenate health. In Ayurvedic classification, it belongs to a category called rasayana, meaning restorer, which refers to the substance's ability to foster systemic balance and resilience. Its name describes the strength of its actions to the ancient Indian people. Ashwa means horse, and gandha means smell, referring both to the odor of the fresh root, which is said to smell like a wet horse, and the traditional belief that it supports strength and endurance by conferring the power of 1,000 horses upon those who drink it. Although this herb has many health benefits like brain protection, immune support, and effects on metabolism, modern research has focused on stress hormone regulation, anxiety reduction, sleep improvement, and recovery support, which is what we'll focus on today. Ashwagandha's primary active compounds are called Withanolides, steroid-like plant compounds known as lactones, and they're responsible for many of its stress-regulating and anti-inflammatory effects. The root also contains smaller amounts of alkaloids along with flavonoids and other supportive phytochemicals. Pharmacologically, ashwagandha is a multi-compound herb influencing inflammatory pathways, neurochemistry, endocrine signaling, and cellular stress responses. The most important framework for understanding ashwagandha is its effects on the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. This is the body's central endocrine stress regulation network and a major coordinator of hormonal output across multiple systems. It directly governs cortisol and DHEA production and also influences other hormone axes through pituitary signaling, including thyroid growth and reproductive hormones. To understand this clearly, it helps to distinguish between the two coordinated stress pathways in the body. First, the sympathetic response, and second, the slower HPA endocrine response. The immediate seconds-level reaction to danger is driven by the sympathetic nervous system and the adrenal medulla, which is the tissue in the center of the adrenal gland. This pathway releases epinephrine and norepinephrine, the classic fight-or-flight hormones. These create instant alertness, increased heart rate and blood pressure, bronchodilation, rapid glucose release, and shunting of blood towards skeletal muscle. This is the act immediately chemistry. The HPA axis is a slower, sustained stress pathway that supports continued survival after the initial shock. Here's how the HPA signaling cascade works. When the brain perceives stress, the hypothalamus releases corticotropin-releasing hormone, CRH. CRH signals a pituitary gland to release adrenocorticotropic hormone, ACTH. ACTH then travels through the bloodstream to the adrenal cortex, which is the outer layers of the adrenal gland, stimulating the production and release of cortisol, the primary long-duration stress hormone. Cortisol is not a first responder hormone, it is a sustained response hormone. Its role is to keep the body functioning during prolonged challenge. Cortisol maintains blood glucose through gluconeogenesis, prevents energy crash after the epinephrine and norepinephrine surge, mobilizes fat and protein stores, supports blood pressure and vascular tone, modulates immune and inflammatory activity, suppresses non-essential processes like digestion and reproduction, and enhances memory consolidation of threat events. From an evolutionary perspective, epinephrine gets you out of danger, cortisol keeps you functioning until you are safe. For example, imagine our ancestors encountering a saber-toothed tiger. The immediate reaction, explosive movement, rapid focus, and instant mobilization is driven primarily by epinephrine and norepinephrine. cortisol rises more gradually and supports the extended survival phase, continuing to run, remaining hypervigilant, functioning without food, tolerating injury, and forming strong memory of the threat location and cues afterwards. Once the threat passes, negative feedback loops reduce CRH and ACTH output, cortisol falls, and the system returns to baseline. The problem in the modern world is that many of us experience constant psychological, social, and environmental stressors, emails, traffic, deadlines, financial pressure that repeatedly activate this pathway. Instead of short pulses, cortisol signaling becomes chronically elevated, leading to prolonged cortisol output and downstream disruption of hormonal balance. This pattern is associated with poor sleep, anxiety, fatigue, low libido, mood instability, reduced ability to recover physically, and metabolic disruption. Chronic HPA activation doesn't only affect cortisol, it also suppresses anabolic and reproductive hormones through hypothalamus and pituitary signaling, affecting testosterone and growth hormone release. This is why prolonged stress often coincides with reduced energy, muscle loss, and slower recovery. By modulating HPA activity, ashwagandha may help restore a more favorable catabolic-anabolic balance and indirectly supports healthy testosterone levels and overall hormonal resilience. Ashwagandha works at the very top of this stress cascade, helping calm the neurons in the hypothalamus that trigger CRH release. It boosts the brain's natural inhibitory signals by enhancing GABAergic activity and reducing excitatory glutamate signaling, lowers stress-related inflammation, and improves feedback control so that the HPA axis doesn't overreact, all without shutting the system down. Rather than acting as a sedative, ashwagandha modulates HPA axis signaling and feedback sensitivity. It helps normalize CRH and ACTH signaling and balances cortisol output, improving stress response efficiency without suppressing normal hormone function. Multiple controlled human trials show that ashwagandha supplementation reduces markers of stress and improves subjective stress scores. In a placebo-controlled trial using the Hamilton Anxiety Rating Scale, participants taking ashwagandha experienced a 41% drop in anxiety scores compared to a 24% reduction in the placebo group, a clinically meaningful difference. The HAM-A is a widely used tool that measures anxiety severity across 14 categories, including anxious mood, tension, fears, sleep difficulties, and physical symptoms like heart palpitations or muscle tension. Each item is scored from 0 to 4. 0 means the symptom is not present, and 4 means it is very severe. Scores are totaled to give an overall measure of anxiety, with higher scores reflecting more significant symptoms. These clinically meaningful findings show that ashwagandha can reduce both psychological and physical aspects of anxiety. In the same placebo-controlled trial, participants took a 500 mg daily dose of a standardized ashwagandha root extract containing 2.5% withanolides, the active component of the plant, and experienced a 23% reduction in morning cortisol compared with essentially no change in the placebo group. These findings suggest that ashwagandha's adaptogenic properties help normalize HPA axis activity, tempering an overactive stress response. By moderating cortisol, ashwagandha reduces heightened fear and stress reactivity, helping people respond to stress more calmly. Preclinical research shows that ashwagandha also influences key neurotransmitter systems that regulate mood and anxiety. Animal studies demonstrate modulation of GABAergic pathways, meaning ashwagandha may enhance inhibitory signaling through GABA, the brain's main calming neurotransmitter, which helps reduce neural excitability and promotes a sense of calm. It also supports serotonergic activity, the system deeply involved in mood stability. Research indicates that ashwagandha may increase serotonin availability, modulate serotonin receptors such as 5-HT1A and 5-HT2A, and support serotonergic neuron health through neurotrophic factors like BDNF. Together with HPA modulation, these effects help explain reductions in both subjective anxiety and stress-related behaviors observed in studies. Ashwagandha's benefits extend beyond neurotransmitters. It also has antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties, which is important because oxidative stress and inflammation are often elevated during chronic stress and contribute to cellular damage and neural dysregulation. Remember this key point: ashwagandha is an adaptogen. It doesn't sedate the nervous system. Instead, it modulates stress response pathways, supporting calm, stable mood and efficient coping without suppressing normal physiological signaling. Because sleep disruption is often driven by elevated stress signaling, it makes sense that normalizing the HPA axis can improve sleep, and that's exactly what clinical studies show with ashwagandha. In one randomized double-blind placebo-controlled trial, adults with non-restorative sleep took 600 mg daily of a standardized ashwagandha root extract for 10 weeks. Compared with placebo, participants showed measurable improvements in both objective and subjective sleep scores. Specifically, their sleep efficiency increased by about 8%, which means a higher proportion of their time in bed was actually spent sleeping. Total sleep time rose by nearly 48 minutes per night, and they fell asleep faster, with sleep onset latency reduced by about 9 minutes. Another important measure, wake after sleep onset, or WASO, decreased by approximately 10 minutes. WASO refers to the amount of time a person is awake after initially falling asleep. In other words, participants experienced fewer interruptions during the night and spent less time awake after initially dozing off, which allowed for a more consolidated restorative sleep. On top of these objective changes, self-reported sleep quality improved dramatically, increasing 72% compared with just 29% in the placebo group. Other trials in adults with insomnia or stress-related sleep disturbances have shown similar improvements over 10 weeks, and a 2023 meta-analysis of 5 randomized controlled trials confirmed that ashwagandha significantly improves sleep onset, sleep efficiency, total sleep time, WASO, and perceived sleep quality. Higher doses, 600 milligrams per day or more, and longer supplementation of 8 weeks or longer produce the strongest effects. Importantly, ashwagandha is not a sedative. It does not force sleep like pharmaceutical hypnotics. Instead, it reduces nighttime hyperarousal, lowering the physiological stress tone that interferes with falling asleep and staying asleep. Clinically, this often shows up as falling asleep more easily, fewer nighttime awakenings, and waking up feeling fully restored. By calming the HPA axis and supporting neurotransmitter balance, ashwagandha helps the body transition into sleep naturally and maintain it through the night. Let's shift to a topic often marketed to athletes but highly relevant for adults over 40: physical recovery and strength support. Multiple controlled trials show that ashwagandha supplementation combined with resistance training can lead to greater gains in strength, muscle size, and body composition compared with placebo. These effects are most pronounced in untrained individuals starting a strength program, which makes the benefits very accessible for beginners and older adults beginning a routine. In one 8-week double-blind placebo-controlled trial of adults new to resistance training, participants taking 300 milligrams of standardized ashwagandha root extract twice daily, containing 5% Withanolides, experienced significantly greater improvements than the placebo group. Bench press strength increased by about 46 kilograms compared with 26 kilograms in the placebo group, and leg extension strength went up roughly 14.5 kilograms versus 9.8. Arm muscle cross-sectional area increased by nearly 8.9 square centimeters compared with about 5.3 in the placebo group, while chest girth expanded by approximately 3.3 centimeters versus 1.4. Participants also reduced body fat percentage by about 3.5% compared with 1.5% in the placebo group. These changes in muscle size and composition translate into meaningful functional improvements, even for those who aren't training competitively. Hormonal data from the same study showed modest increases in testosterone, around a 10% rise in men, but no consistent increases were seen in women. This suggests the effect is sex-specific rather than universal. While some of these hormonal changes were not statistically significant due to the small sample sizes, the more consistent finding across trials is that ashwagandha supports a favorable anabolic to catabolic balance rather than acting as a direct testosterone booster. Mechanistically, these effects likely result from several complementary pathways. By reducing chronic cortisol signaling, ashwagandha helps limit catabolic stress that can impair recovery. It supports anabolic processes, promoting muscle protein synthesis and growth, allowing the body to build new muscle while minimizing breakdown. It also lowers inflammation and oxidative stress, accelerating post-workout repair, which helps muscles recover faster, reduces soreness, and enables more consistent training. Enhanced recovery signaling is reflected in reduced exercise-induced muscle damage markers like creatine kinase, showing that muscles experience less damage and bounce back more quickly between workouts. Other trials have demonstrated similar benefits using standardized extracts with 5% or higher Withanolides. Participants engaging in regular resistance training consistently saw greater improvements in strength, muscular endurance, and body composition compared with placebo. Importantly, ashwagandha can support muscle preservation, strength retention, faster recovery, and resilience to training stress, all crucial outcomes for healthy aging and maintaining functional strength, even if workouts aren't competitive. Let's move on to dosing and safety. Most clinical studies use standardized ashwagandha root extracts, typically in the range of 300 to 600 milligrams per day, often split into 2 doses. These extracts usually contain around 2.5 to 5% Withanolides, which are the active compounds responsible for many of ashwagandha's stress modulating and adaptogenic effects. Timing of dosing can depend on your goal. For stress management, taking it in the morning or splitting the dose throughout the day is common. For sleep support, evening dosing may be preferable. If you're using traditional teas or decoctions, a practical guideline is to steep 2 to 3 grams of dried root per cup for 5 to 10 minutes, taking 1 to 2 cups per day. This provides a reasonable amount of active constituents, though the exact concentration of Withanolides in tea can vary. Both traditional preparations and standardized extracts can be effective when used appropriately. Ashwagandha is generally well tolerated at these doses. Some individuals may experience mild gastrointestinal upset, and in sensitive people, it can occasionally produce excess sedation. There are some important precautions to keep in mind. Ashwagandha should not be used during pregnancy, as some European regulatory authorities have restricted its use due to potential risks. People with hyperthyroidism, unstable thyroid disease, or who are taking thyroid hormone medication should only use ashwagandha under professional supervision, as it can increase thyroid function. It's also wise to avoid combining ashwagandha with strong sedatives or immunosuppressants without medical oversight. As with any active botanical, the safest approach is to stay within recommended doses, whether you're using a well-prepared tea or a standardized extract. Following these guidelines helps you maximize benefits while minimizing risk. Ashwagandha is best understood as an HPA axis regulating adaptogen with solid human evidence for reducing stress, improving sleep quality, and supporting recovery capacity. It is not a stimulant or a sedative. Instead, it is a systems-level adaptogen helping the body respond to stress more efficiently, supporting hormonal balance, and promoting resilience in both mind and body. Its effects extend beyond the HPA axis by supporting neurotransmitter balance, including GABA and serotonin pathways, and reducing oxidative stress and inflammation. Ashwagandha helps stabilize mood, enhance calm, and protect cells from damage caused by chronic stress. For adults engaged in physical training, it can support muscle strength, recovery, and functional fitness, while also promoting a favorable anabolic-catabolic balance that helps maintain vitality over time. In other words, ashwagandha is an endocrine-regulating adaptogen that restores balance, supports energy and recovery, and tips the scales towards longevity and overall resilience. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.